All right. Ready for the championship?
Let's do it.
Let's go.
Got the win of the weekend against the Las Vegas Lights on Saturday, and their midfield interchange, the way they got involved was so impressive in the effort. Here, Jack Gurr possesses on the right side, forcing Las Vegas to sit in and setting up a three-man interchange between Christian Pirano and midfielders Nick Ross and Blake Willie. You see Willie and Pirano essentially trade places, bending Las Vegas. Meanwhile, Ross sort of sidles inside, drawing the defense that much further in. That reestablishes the passing triangle, but it opens up space on the right for defender Jared Timmer to step forward into. You literally see Ross pointing out that gap. He knows that Timmer can take advantage, and ultimately this is going to set up a cross that puts Sacramento in the lead. It's terrific team play and why this team has such vast potential in the West.
This match ends up becoming a major blowout, so we're really not going to talk about it too much outside of the tactics show. But to reiterate what John said on Blue Sky and Twitter, Nick Ross
hadn't started a game since March. Looked like the missing piece for this team, and obviously Phil has experience with the Nick Ross impact.
Yep. Yeah, I mean he knits everything together. He was really good for Sacramento when they looked good last season. I think, again, I don't think it's a coincidence that him being back in the starting lineup, looking good, making this team that we all on paper, again, like think should be doing more. I don't think it all like looks cohesive on accident all of a sudden that he's in there. And I think Sacramento needs to figure out, like, if Nick's not in there, like, how do we create this sort of connections without him? But for this, yeah, wonderful game, and Nick crowns it with a goal from the penalty spot as well. So yeah, big credit to Nick Ross, who now has 100 appearances for Sacramento Republic as well. So
wow,
yeah.
Well, let's go ahead and get to our first match of the championship for us to really dive into. And it's after Rhode Island gets a nice 1-0 win over over Birmingham Legion. They then make their way to Tampa Bay, where I do believe an Alex Ashton was in attendance. They get a nice 3-0 win over Tampa Bay. And I'm just going to pose the question to you guys. And Alex, I want to get your thoughts on this for first. But should we be more impressed that Rhode Island's finally clicking, or is this a Tampa Bay conversation?
I'm impressed that Rhode Island is clicking. That was one of my notes on this one, is that they're now on a 4-match unbeaten run, 2 road wins in a week. That's impressive. But yeah, we'll get to the Tampa Bay stuff next, I guess.
Can I say on the so Michael Cayley, who did who does a lot of XG
the king, yeah,
stuff on Twitter, was like the beginning of sort of visualization of XG. Whenever he would talk about a match like this, in which Tampa Bay actually won the XG battle and gets beat 3-0, right? Like they were well ahead in XG, gets beat 3-0. He always used to quote Mel Brooks, and he would say, "Tragedy is when I cut my finger. Comedy is when you fall into an open sewer and die." And this game was comedy because Tampa Bay losing this game in and of itself was sort of unjust in a certain way. Like, obviously, Rhode Island played well. I'm not taking away from them. But Tampa Bay also played pretty well. And they actually probably deserved more from this. And it is 3 bangers that Rhode Island just hitting bombs. All 3 of these goals are unbelievable, and it's not to take away from any of them individually, but in terms of the actual play, I think Tampa Bay is really hard done by with the scoreline, because how do you legislate for 3 top bins outside of the box goals like this? It's wonderful to watch from Rhode Island, and I think I'm a little bit off the gas on the Tampa Bay is in trouble, only because they did do probably enough in this game to deserve something. And they are like sort of supremely unlucky in a lot of ways to not come away with anything.
Yeah, so Tampa Bay I think they had a really good first half in this match. They did get out-muscled a little bit in the box. But Tampa Bay is a team that I think they're like top 4 in the league in shots, but then they're bottom 3 in goals.
Monterey.
So they're taking the shots. They just, they're not scoring goals. And you've got Emmanuel Ortega, who scored 17 last year and got benched for this match because he hasn't scored a goal yet. In fact, when he came in the match in the 58th minute, I was sitting with the supporters groups, and some of them started putting on paper bags at that moment. Now that said, the supporters groups were very very kind, very welcoming, lovely people. It was just I'd never seen that at an American soccer match. It's like NFL level stuff in this country. That goal in the 45th was it 45 plus 5 in the first half. It killed the momentum. And the second half, I think Rhode Island just dominated. Tampa Bay couldn't get out of the midfield. It just kind of turned into a disaster there.
But you kind of cite the numbers, Phil. This has been the story with Tampa Bay for 2 full years at this point. Yeah. They're XG darlings. They put up the shot numbers, but it's almost volume more than quality. You never feel like they're the team that's really getting the golden opportunity. And when they make a mistake, it's almost always lethal. And I think about that Clay Holstad goal, which was unbelievable. What a strike from him. But it starts with the 3 midfielders completely losing their organization, allowing Clay Holstad to get a touch on the edge of the box. This is somebody where you look at him and he is going to punish you from that area. He is such a clean striker of the ball. What mental slip up happens that allows him to get there? Why is the defense not stepping up to make sure he can't have the shooting angle? There are just so many little things that Tampa Bay isn't getting right. And even if it's momentary, it compounds for them. And it's the reason why they're sitting on so few points right now.
And that is totally fair. And I would also like to add that Clay Holstad generating that amount of swerve on a shot from open play is unreal. Genuinely insane. Like I could not believe the amount that ball moved.
Ryan?
And this was Tampa Bay's worst defeat at home since October 2023 when Birmingham was able to beat them 3-0 at home as well. And you look ahead on the schedule for the Rowdies, if they are not beating Lexington this weekend, I'm extremely nervous about their next few games in the league of Louisville, Miami, and Pittsburgh following this.
A couple things for me, and I've been on this boat for a long, long time. Clay Holstad is the best pure striker of the ball across any of the leagues. There is no one who can just strike a ball like he can. Most of the time it hits the top left post and doesn't go in, but it is just unbelievably pure every time. Second, you can just mark down that Zach Harivo is going to score against his former team. He just always seems to do it. I don't know if he's scored against San Antonio yet, but he always just seems to do that. So good for Zach. In the last little bit, and John, you mentioned not closing things down, not being able to keep the midfield tight. I talked to Mark Briggs after the Detroit City match, and I promise this connects. And he mentioned a lot of times about the team being slow or whatever. And I finally asked, I was like, what do you mean by slow? Is it literal pace, or is it processing speed? Is it how fast the ball goes? And he mentioned it's a combination of how fast the ball goes and how fast processing speed happens. I think that Tampa Bay has always relied on being physically gifted, just beasts. But this is the same team they had 4 years ago when physically they could do that. a lot of this team looks like they've lost a step, so they're playing how they used to. They just don't have the same speed. They don't have the same physicality that they once did. And the game looks like it's gotten fast on them, and they don't have the mental wherewithal to do that. I mean, you mentioned the Holstad. Why did they not take a step? Because I don't think they can do it like they once did. They're still freak athletes that would absolutely like fold me like a pretzel.
Yeah.
But like, if we're talking about the sphere of the USL, it just looks like they've gotten us slow and their brain has not sped up.
And we've been saying this about guys like Forrest Lasso, fairly or not, for a couple of years at this point. And you project that onto Lawrence Wyke and Thomas Van Zeil. It's a lot of guys who in 2021 would have been awesome. But in this league in 2025, with the speed of thought of somebody like Rhode Island, I don't know if they can cut it anymore.
And I did take a look back at the goals. Each one, they are in acres of space. So there is a little bit of like, I mean, if you let Steph Curry pull up for 3 uncontested, he's gonna sink it. And so the fact that no one's getting closed down in any of these makes the banger all the more likely. So you could say in the one hand, like, well done to Rhode Island for finishing these tough chances, but on the other, like, someone's got to step out on these.
I'm just going to keep the basketball analysis going on it with these just really fast. Some of the shots, it almost feels like the Paul George, Dame Lillard, where they just like, that's a bad shot.
Yeah.
Like, it's a good shot if it went in, and it did 3 times.
And the last 2 were almost identical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Any final thoughts on this one?
Shout out to the Tampa Bay Rowdies for having an excellent stadium experience. We had a blast, and shout out to Mark Chisholm of Ralph's Mob for welcoming us into the section where we got to wave the flags and learn a few of their chants for the first half until they kind of fizzled out in the second for understandable reasons. And yeah, it was a great fireworks show at the end.
Very fun. Last match, let's go ahead and stay in Florida. I mean, well, this one wasn't. Well, yes, it was in Florida. And we are going to Mr. 305's stadium, Mr. Worldwide. Speaking of the worldwide, the worldwide team, Miami FC, take down Loudoun 2-1. And we've been beating on this drum a little bit that this is not the last 2 years Miami team. John, can I simply just chalk this up to that Argentinians are better than Italians, or is there something better going on?
Well, I think Miami had like 3 Americans in the entire squad this weekend, which kind of defies logic, what they're doing in terms of the roster build. I don't know, man. You watch them play against a very good Loudoun team that we've praised a lot. A Loudoun team that can control you in the press and outpossess you all night long. And Miami did not break a sweat. I think oftentimes early in the season, Miami's MO was trying to be expansive and trying to be fast and play over you before you can settle. There were moments in this game where they really matched Loudoun in terms of the slick passing sequences, trying to engage Mercado in the midfield and let Milano cut in. Some really complex patterns that broke down a solid defensive team. It comes down to me to the midfield solidity, the way that midfield line of 4 players was able to prevent passes into Abdelatif Abakora quite often and then transition forward pretty quickly. But yeah, deeply impressive from Gaston Madoni and everything this team is doing right now.
The individual brilliance from Milano at times in this did show that Miami does have a different level in them this year, because what they were capable of last year at their very, very best was there was a very strict ceiling. Their ceiling is now among the best teams, right? Like, they're not always going to play at this high of a level individually, but when they are on, and when Milano on the first goal for Bonfilio's goal, just absolutely, the run, the vision, the ability to split the center backs with the pass. Like, this is a level that Miami was not capable of, and this is the difference. In a game where they can kind of get Loudoun out of sync and keep them from hitting their heights, they have a level that they can get to, where they can take down these teams that are, maybe over the course of the season a little bit better than them. Like, they are able to get those teams down a little bit below what they're capable of, and then they raise their level. So really impressive from Miami. I think in general, Loudoun will still probably be fine. I think they do show how dangerous they are. Just even for the penalty, it shows how quickly this Loudoun team can become dangerous. And all it takes is a single ball into Abukora, and they're suddenly in business. So I think Loudoun's probably okay. But there was another raise in the DEFCON level of the lads protocol with the loss in Miami. So just we are on a little bit higher alert in the lads in the lads bunker for if Loudoun are gonna crumble here. But I still feel okay about Loudoun.
Yeah, I think it speaks more for Miami's improvement here. But Loudoun, yeah, they were held to only 2 other shots on goal outside of that penalty. So,
and I think the caveat for Loudoun. Oh, go ahead, Ryan.
I was going to say, I think we're going to get a really high chance of lads happening more if you're looking at Loudoun's next 3 games, all at home, mind you, to their credit, but it's Louisville, Charleston, Detroit.
Yep. And you think about the center back pairing in this game. Keegan Tingey, who's been a star right back, was on the left side of the pairing. And then Cole Turner, who's barely played a game in the last 3 years, essentially, and often as a defensive mid at prior stops. 2 capable players, but if that's your center back pairing against the schedule Ryan just laid out, you're not feeling great about that.
Locomotive legend Cole Turner.
That's right.
Yeah.
I don't want to say this about Loudoun too much because I do like what they've done. I really, really do. I think that this is sustainable, but I think I mentioned this a few weeks ago where we're getting to the part of the season, and John, you kind of talked about it already. You're only as good as your players on the bench.
Yeah.
And it seems like we don't know what kind of wage they're working with to bring people in. Oliver Gage brought in a literal bare bones staff and made a best team arguably in the league, but that's a starting 11. What do they have to make up backups? And that worries me. Same thing I said, I think last week when it was just Alex and I feel the same way about Miami, where I love what Miami's doing, but they're all 35 and like might die once it hits like 99% humidity. Like, how are they going to last when somebody gets hurt? Do they have, I mean, we know that Miami has the money to reinvest, but will they do it like they once did?
And I think the interesting thing, if you look at who didn't play in this game, Alan Gavilanes didn't play a single minute. Alejandro Matrano, who's been a capable defender for some bad teams, but capable nonetheless. Like, those guys did not touch the pitch. That's depth that even a team like Loudoun doesn't really have. Loudoun's final subs were teenagers, just academy kids that they brought into this game. At least Miami is going to have a roster of 18 pros, and it might be someone they signed from the Argentine 3rd tier this offseason, but that's a guy with experience, and I think that matters.
I don't know. It just makes me really worried on just kind of all of it for both teams, because I want to believe, because they both look good, but I just don't want this to be a lads situation, right? Of, man, they fell off again, because I feel like while traditionally that does work, Phil, this year does feel different. But if they don't invest the money, it's, different story, same ending, right? For Miami, if they don't reinvest or if they don't add people that are in their prime at the moment, like, we'll see. I don't know. But it was a fun match still, nonetheless. Also, John, you got a nice little kit from the Miami FC.
I did. They launched their Pantera kit today with a nice panther on it, and I was lucky enough to get it in the mail. So shout out to everyone at Miami. If you're listening, we love you, and we'll always use the in your name.
Always.
One question I just wanted to share to the group, just with these two clubs meeting again on August 30th, there's currently 11 points separating them in the table. Will Miami be above Loudoun in that time? To put in a quick stipulation, Miami is playing 3 extra games in the league in that time than Loudoun. That Loudoun has 10 games between now and August 30th. Miami has 13.
Loudoun will be above them, but they will both be in the top 6.
There will be an equalization.
Yeah, it might be like a 4-6 matchup, but like they will be teams in the hunt for a potential home playoff game. How about that?
Well, I'm going to kind of flip the question a little bit, Ryan. Are these two teams kind of knowing what they have depth-wise that might start really prioritizing the Jägermeister Cup in order to get some kind of silverware from the year?
Miami got that result on penalties first time out, so that's a nice little boon for them. Like they're starting from a good position. Loudoun is in a bit of a hole already. Like they lost to Lou City first time out. If they have a tough round a week from Saturday, you could see the end of that stretch really being like rotation games for them, which could help given the depth issues. But yeah, fascinated to see how Ryan Martin handles that.
Wait, Loudoun won against Lexington, right? I thought it was Richmond that lost Lou City in the Jägermeister.
Yeah, they've played. I'm thinking of the
it
Open
was
Cup.
Open Cup. Yeah.
Too many cups.
There's a lot of cups. So Loudoun has 3 points. Miami has 2.
Sure.
Anyway, I just thought that would be an interesting little caveat. We're going to get a quick open floor before we get into predictions. And like quick, I mean really fast. We were going to talk about New Mexico, and I feel really bad because New Mexico deserves to be talked about. They're a really freaking good team, like a really good team. But unfortunately for New Mexico, they are just at the level of being so good that they don't really get talked about. It's usually your 3 through 10s that get talked about a lot. I just want to throw it out there that New Mexico is a really good team, and I promise we see you. You're just a really good team, too good to talk about.
And hey, New Mexico folks, I'm seeing you play live in 2 weeks, so I'll talk about you then.
Where are you going?
I mean, play at Phoenix, but whatever.
Oh, are you going back home?
I am.
Good for you.
Nice.
Yeah.
I don't know, like 2.5 of their XG were from 2 penalties and basically open chance goal at the end. So
this was the other game where like if Orange County scores a goal early, Orange County probably wins 4-0 just with the momentum. But the game don't work like that. Taylor Maples taking penalties from center back rules. Best thing in the league.
If we can get Lou City versus New Mexico and the final pin for both of them is Tosh versus Naples, I'm all the way in.
That's what we need.
August 23rd.
Phil, you had no other agenda, right?
New Mexico play.
Okay.
Phil, you had zero agenda in what you just said, right?
Yeah, obviously unbiased.
Numbers never lie.
Any other open floor thoughts?
John had mentioned
Indy 11 are depressing. That's all I have to say. I hate them.
And on that note, I think El Paso, like my new narrative around El Paso is that they are very, very good at even score, but they might be the worst team in the league at playing with a lead. They become awful. The bigger their lead gets, the worse they play.
Let's see. This is just. Oh, Ryan, you had something?
Yeah, I was going to give. It's slowly at least been coming around, but John, you had mentioned seeing Phoenix in a few weeks, but credit to them with back-to-back victories, and I think they're on a 4-match unbeaten run in the league as of right now as well. So they've climbed into a playoff spot, and they're slowly starting to kind of figure things out.
I said preseason that I thought Phoenix was a playoff team. I am a Madoka truther, and I will do anything for him. Like I really hope that they make it because I believe in him so hard.
Love it.
Let's see. This is not really a Birmingham thought more than it is just Mark Briggs is awesome. Like, if you have a chance to just talk to him, he is a wonderful human being. Just like talk to him sometimes. He's just great. I love Mark Briggs. Okay, predictions. Let's get into them. Lexington versus Tampa Bay. This is championship. So can Lexington find their way into not being the worst team in the West, or is the downfall really happening for the Rowdies? John?
Yeah, I've got a draw here. These are two teams that I'm pretty low on at this point, but I think that the way that Lexington can kind of put their foot on the ball and really set the tempo means that they are going to limit what Tampa Bay does best, not let them get out on the break via players like Leo Fernandez. To me, it feels like maybe a 1-1 game in the end.
I mean,
Ryan?
I think this is the first meeting of our stoppable force v movable object of the season. That I'm agreeing with John on this one, that I think it will end in a draw, and the narrative surrounding both teams needing a win will continue for another week.
Alex?
I don't do draws, and I feel like I've been a jerk to Lexington for so long. So after seeing Tampa Bay in action last week, I'm leaning Lexington on this one.
I have someone who's joined my cult. Welcome. Phil?
I am leaning Lexington too. I think, like, as not impressed as I've been recently with them, I do think they've been a little bit unlucky at times, and there's no team that I feel like they when a team is in a low spot like Tampa, there is no bottom, unfortunately, and I think Lexington will get the win over a team that's just struggling for confidence right now.
One thing that Lexington does have going for them is a nice bit of physicality, like a nice bit of speed for them. Like, they can take advantage of, we kind of mentioned it, a bit slow at times, Tampa Bay, and then they can get in behind. I don't think it's going to be a high scoring match, but this does feel like Lexington breaks the snide just a little bit. I'm taking a Lexington win. Let's go over and take some shots at glory, people. We have Knoxville hosting Indy 11. We've already seen Knoxville take down a championship side, but hey, Indy 11, despite depressing John, are no slouches themselves when it comes to the Open, or it comes to the Jägermeister. So, what we got going, John?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, I despise the fact that we are just playing one Jägermeister Cup game this weekend. I think that's abominable. But I do think my Indy 11 rebound in this game and get a full-on win, not even on penalties, just straight up 3 points. Knoxville is a great team, but I think there's something about Indy and the way they can attack you with their width. The quality they've got up front is finally going to come through here.
Ryan?
Yeah, I've actually backed Knoxville on this one. I do think if they get another victory here, it will be on penalties like they were able to against Tulsa. I really point to that one as a way to, like, just kind of show across USL Championship and League One that the League One teams are much closer to the championship teams. Not across the league, but a lot of the teams are a lot closer than some championship teams will give them credit for. And so I think Knoxville get the win here, and I think they even score the opening goal.
Oh.
Alex?
I'm going to have to go with Indy 11. I saw what they did to Madison. Knoxville is a similar defensive-minded team that Indy just shredded. And Knoxville's also – they're not – I don't know if they're necessarily struggling to score goals, but I'd like to see more. And it also – there's a chance Mark Doyle might not even play due to injury. So I don't think things are pointing in Knoxville's direction for this one, unfortunately. So I'm going to go with Indy.
Did not realize that about Doyle. Okay. Bill?
I have Indy as well. I think they looked really good, and they definitely deserved more against El Paso in a tough game on the road. Jamali Waite probably had a lot to say about why they didn't come away with something, and all in all, I think they are starting to look like a more serious prospect. I think they get the job done against Knoxville.
The Mark Doyle things kind of changes things for me. I was fairly confident that I thought One Knox could win this, maybe in PKs, but still win it nonetheless. John, you mentioned just kind of the width taking down One Knox. I feel that this is a One Knox team that can be pretty compact, be hard to break down. And if Indy starts relying on width and doing kind of those, cutbacks to the second six, basically or like kind of just cutting the ball back by crosses, I feel like this is a One Knox team who can handle that. But if Doyle isn't playing, that really changes things for me because that's kind of who I figured would be their goal scorer. Ryan, I'm changing it to Indy. Like everything was kind of hinging on Mark Doyle being in this team for me.
Now, to be fair, Knoxville is not the greatest at communicating this type of stuff this year. So there's no word, but he did miss the last match and went out early. The prior one.